done, we will get rolling. So if you're watching down the road and trying something a little bit different, you can skip on forward to the end of the 4-minute clock. Otherwise, we're just going to chitty chat and say hey, and I'm going to talk a little bit of admin stuff that we got going on. So let me get this clock started.
Okay.
So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're quite welcome. You've been in here a couple times. So, guys, as you're jumping on, if I can get you to comment that you can hear us, that all is good, all those things. Let me get this one up. If I can get it to click, there we go. And like and share and tag somebody. We'll jump in here in about 3 minutes into an actual discussion. So until then, so questions that have been sent out to all the candidates, they're slowly trickling in. So Carolyn's just went live, got hers up there. She got the answers in, and that is, we'll get more and more of those as we get going. If you haven't seen, we've got Mac Butler coming in tomorrow morning. I'll get his answers live so everybody can go read those. If you go to advancedetowah.com and click on the who's running, then that'll get you over to the app, and you can look at all the candidate profiles. That is still a work in progress. So thank you for getting the your answers in.
Sure.
And I know you've been talking about politics a whole lot longer than I have. So
Okay. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, we're trying to get a few more folks in here.
Okay.
So guys, hit that like or share. What have you been up to today?
A little bit
putting out fires in business.
Bit of everything. You know, I'm also a realtor, so it's a tight housing market, and submitting an offer and hoping it's accepted. Today I have a buyer that's been looking about 24 months almost.
Wow.
Trying to find something and always getting beat out in the offer, and so had that going on this morning, and then meeting with tax clients, and now I'm here. And I have a St. Bernard at home that has arthritis, so I have to deal with him every morning a little bit also. So I've been all over the place today.
Well, that sounds like a standard Tuesday in Etowah County.
It does.
So yeah, I guess you're knee deep in tax season, huh?
I am. So through April 18th, anyhow. So
well, so guys, if you've got any questions, this is the first official candidate interview, I guess you would say, or candidate discussion. I don't really want to call it, I guess, an interview, because these have always been more of a discussion with folks that are watching.
Right.
Yeah. So you're the guinea pig. I appreciate you.
Okay.
I know you didn't want me to tell you that, but
didn't know I was.
That's well, and so we're gonna hit most of the folks that are voting or being voted on in the primaries are going to be going first, because that's something worth mentioning as you guys are jumping on May 24th. That primary is basically deciding anybody that's being voted on in that primary. That is the vote, because everybody's running on the same ticket. So if you don't go vote in May for the primaries, then you won't get to choose county commissioners and the state level seats that are out there.
Correct.
So want to beat that drum, get out there and be prepared to vote. So we will be talking to those folks in the primaries first, and then we're trying to figure out dates to have a roundtable discussion. So we'll see how that comes together. That's a lot of cats to herd
in a short period of time.
Yes. Yep. So, all right, guys. So welcome to a candidate discussion, candidate interview. I've got Miss Carolyn Parker, who is running for county commission for District 5. This is, we'll I don't want to steal too much of the intro on who she is and give her a chance to kind of introduce herself. When people ask, who are you and why should I vote for you? The who are you? I'm sure you'll say 1,000 times over the coming months.
Yes.
But so we're kicking it off. So here's kind of the flow. We're going to go with a quick intro. Then we're going to kind of touch base on the core issues that Advance Etowah, that we've kind of outlined out there. And particular to Carolyn, I want to go ahead and get it out of the way in case no one is aware. She has been a part of this weird thing of Advance Etowah over the last year and a half with fighting the rendering plant. And I just say that so you got some context and people start accusing us on the internet of playing favorites or whatever. We're not hiding any of that.
Yes.
She is stepped down. She's no longer a part of what we're doing as Advance Etowah, so she hasn't gotten the secret list of questions that we've been sending around. But I just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. So
yes, it's always good to be transparent and disclose. So
yep.
Yeah, that's great.
So the other thing as we move into doing these discussions, the thing I want to emphasize, and I put out in multiple ways, this is not an opportunity for folks to come on and talk negatively about other folks they're running against. There's plenty of internet to do that on. So what I'm really looking for is kind of what you, as a candidate, how you want to fix our problems, or if you don't think we have any problems, then that's your perspective as well, and that's what we really want to knock down on or dig down into, and we'll try to keep it to 30-ish minutes or so. So okay. Let's start with who is Carolyn Parker in the context of coming in as a county commissioner?
Well, believe it or not, I'm a lifelong resident of Etowah County and a lifelong resident of District 5. I grew up in Alabama City, which in the area that's also part of District 5, and then later relocated to East Gadsden, which is District 5. So I've always lived in this county district. So I think I feel like I'm more than qualified to understand the problems and issues that disproportionately affect this particular district. It's a minority seat on the commission that was declared by a court decree, I think back in the 90s. So I previously served on the county commission for 8 years, from 2010 to 2018. The third female to do so, or second, depending on how you look at it. The first two females served at the same time. So, but only 3 females have served on the county commission. So that's definitely been an honor, and been glad to set an example for our young girls growing up who may be a little intimidated about entering public office.
Okay. And you have previously been a county commissioner, and then you ran for mayor last election.
2018.
Okay. And so, I guess we'll dive into the leadership aspects, and you kind of touched on some of your answers that you've given, in your, answers to the questions that are posted on your, profile on the web. But why do you feel like, what qualifies you to be the leader, that is called for as a county commissioner?
Aside from having, I guess, 8 years of previous experience, also just being a servant, I think, and a community leader for most of my adult life, I think that qualifies me. I think I did a pretty effective job when I was on the county commission. I only, left or vacated the seat to run for mayor. So I'm always looking for opportunities where I can impact the greatest amount of lives or the greatest amount of people. And so for me, that seat looks like the county commission seat. I think I have compassion and a heart for the people of the district, of the county as a whole. And I think that's what you need in leadership to move a community, city, or county forward. And so that's something that I think that I've demonstrated well over the years. I've always kind of had the mantra to not err on the side of government, but to always err on the side of people, because they essentially are who you work for.
All right. Well, so moving down the list, the next thing that we've outlined would be the government structure and the structural issues. That's been an ongoing conversation that we've had. In terms of representation on the boards, the very nature of some of the boards themselves. Obviously, we could probably sit here and talk for an hour and a half or more about some of those things. But what do you see as some top priorities? Coming in as county commissioner with just the way our government is structured to get Etowah, headed in the direction that you think it should go.
Okay, from the seat of a county commissioner, first and foremost, I think the mega site has to be at the top of any commissioner's list. There's been so much of the taxpayers' dollars invested in that project. It's one of the largest mega sites we have in the state of Alabama. I feel like I was instrumental in getting it designated as an advantage site. And at the time, it was one of only 4 in the entire state of Alabama. That was a huge achievement, not just for me, but the other 5 men that I served with at the time on the county commission. There was a lot of work that went into that. Sometimes the decisions were not always popular, but and it was a project that was started prior to my coming on to the county commission in 2010. And as I began to research and kind of look at other sites and what's available in Alabama and what Etowah County has to offer, I came to the conclusion that it's a great project. That's the right thing to do for our future, for the future of our community and our citizens. And, it may not employ my husband or anyone in my family, but, it may provide a job for my grandchildren in the future or my great grandkids. And so part of being an effective leader, I think, is being able to envision what the future looks like and how we can make that a great future, for not leave a lot of problems for the future generation, but to try to make it easier and to pave the road of progression, I would say.
Okay. So what along the government, how do you feel about I guess the interactions between all of our different, we've talked a lot as a community over the last year and a half about the number of municipalities we have and the brokenness. And I don't mean brokenness as in like it's broken, but the broken up nature of Etowah County. What are some of your thoughts? Is it structured the right way? Is everybody working together? What's kind of your viewpoint on some of that?
So when I got on the county commission, I think there were 13 cities, townships, and municipalities in Etowah County. When I left the county commission, I think it was down to 11. I think 2 had been absorbed back into the county. Is it still 11? Does that number sound right?
I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So we're somewhere, I would say, around 10 or 11 counties, townships, and cities. So you have Glencoe, Host Bluff, Etowah, Rainbow City, Reese City, the city of Gaston. So you have so many different cities and counties, and they all have mayors and council people that need to work together. And so sometimes that's kind of hard to do because their vision may not be our vision. And at the end of the day, you have to, I think, again, err on the side of people and err on the side of the majority. I think what's Pacific and unique to Reese City may not be unique and Pacific to Host Bluff or the city of Etowah or the city of Gaston. And so as a leader, you have to be able to, I think, see all the people, hear all the people, and then figure out a way that works for all to work together and to collaborate. I think collaboration is important. The seat that I'm running for, you represent part of a city of Etowah and part of the city of Gaston. And so one thing that I can say I'm proud of is that I did collaborate with the city of Etowah and Gaston the entire 8 years that I was on the commission. I think that's the only way. When you collaborate, you save taxpayers' dollars. There's no reason or a need to have duplication of services. We're in a pandemic. There's inflation. I think that's a waste of taxpayers' money when you don't try to find a way to collaborate and partner on projects. Myself, we haven't talked a lot about it, I guess, in this community, but I'm definitely a fan of a metro form of government. In a lot of communities, people feel like, well, then that does away with my seat or my title or whatever. Not necessarily. There's some metro forms of government. They may have 22 people, 22 council people, 22 commissioners, or 22 supervisors, whatever they decide to be in that community. And then they have a county or city manager that may or may not be elected. So it doesn't take away power from anyone. In my opinion, it actually empowers everyone. And so that's something I think sometimes when you have a situation like we have here, Michael, where you have 11 cities, townships, and municipalities, I think that is actually a solution. And it can also trickle over into law enforcement. I mean, certainly you would still have a head of law enforcement, be it a sheriff or a police chief. Again, however you would structure that. What that looks like would be up to the people in that community. And then they have the captains and chiefs under them, similar to what they have now. So it doesn't do away with anyone's, importance or level of power. It just, I think it brings people together because then you're on one page working toward a common goal.
Okay. Well, along that same theme, let's jump in. We'll skip to the master plan. Okay. Which I think is you were kind of you're already heading down that path. What are your thoughts on a countywide master plan? And any thoughts on how if you want to implement something like that, how would it be implemented?
Well, first you have to have everyone at the table, and that has proven to be incredibly hard to do in this community. When I was I was previously chair of the county commission at one point, and the first thing I did was extend an olive branch to the city of Gaston to kind of try it out to see, if we could collaborate and come up with a yearly. I propose that we do 2 yearly work sessions together. So an annual, I guess, and a biannual work session, and talk about kind of, what are our goals. If they say we want to pave 300 miles of road, and all the commissioners that have, an area of the city of Gaston in it should have some input. Well, what 300 miles? And can we come together and not duplicate services? Can our engineers work together and on this project? Can we save taxpayers' dollars that way? I think that's a start. If you can start working on, and then everything is huge, but on the smaller projects,
right?
Politically, I think if you can work together to create a pedestrian bridge or a park of some sort, if you can work together on more of a non-political project together, then I think that begins to lay the groundwork to work on some bigger, more intense, important projects. And so I did extend the invitation, and the city of Gaston did say they were okay with it, and they would give me some dates that we could all maybe sit down and have a joint work session together. So I'm still waiting on those dates. But anyway, but I do believe in that, and I do think that it's something we could do. We just have to have people at the municipal levels on board with the county to sit down and have a work session together and say, let's at least try to work on 3 projects together this year. Let's collaborate on 3 things. Can we agree to do that? And what are the 3 things?
Okay. All right. Well, I think that covers most of the master plan and government structure. So we'll move on to a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart, the infrastructure. And I say that, guys, because we're both part of a Clean Water Act case that is going on right now in conjunction with Coosa River Keepers in well, some infrastructure problems. So I know you've been talking about infrastructure probably till you're blue in the face. So let's talk about what are your thoughts on where we're at with infrastructure, the future of I guess I'd just say the future of fixing the issues that you see that are out there.
So I'll talk first. I'll speak on District 5. The infrastructure is horrible in a lot of ways. There's not adequate drainage. And this is not an issue that's just specific to the city of Gadsden or Etowah County. I'm not saying that. But the only issues we can work to resolve and fix are the issues of our own communities. We can't fix a problem in Pale City or Springville. We live and pay taxes here in Etowah County, and that's what we have to be concerned with. I think in a lot of the predominantly minority and traditionally lower income and minority neighborhoods, there are a lot of open ditches. I think that's unacceptable in 2022. An open ditch in the past has been a form of drainage when people couldn't do any better. But certainly today, with the sophistication of technology and the knowledge that our engineers now have, there are better ways to have an adequate drainage system than open ditches. They draw mosquitoes which carry diseases like malaria and possibly even COVID. We don't know what they carry. Rodents, cockroaches, rats, that sort of thing that you're seeing in communities that would not be there if they didn't have that, for lack of better words, breeding ground. And yes, can ditches be a form of drainage system, a form of drainage infrastructure and work? To some degree. It's not the most effective way. And also what happens oftentimes is that these cities and municipalities have stopped maintaining the ditches, and so they'll silt it in. People in District 5 know that I did a lot of those projects when I was on the county commission, just simply getting the engineers to go out and dig it out because it's just silted in over time, over years. And so it's not even draining. The water is sitting on top and running under houses and causing mold and respiratory issues and that sort of thing, making people sick. And that's just not acceptable to me. So one of the first things would be to alleviate and do away with any open ditches that are there in place of adequate drainage. I think that's a big start. In other areas, you've seen plumbing or piping that hasn't been replaced or maintained well and hasn't been replaced in, certainly over 30 or 40 years. So when I talk about these issues, oftentimes people take it personally. It's nothing that anyone in office today even put in place, but it is our responsibility to maintain it and take care of it. And so oftentimes people take it, personally, but no one that's in office today or even in the last 10, 15, 20 years put these things in place. But it is up to us to fix it and make it better.
Okay. Well, and I think I definitely say that the infrastructure issues that's not something unique to, as you mentioned, not unique to Etowah County. That's a problem across America.
Yes.
We built a lot of great infrastructure and we just haven't maintained it through the years. So
right.
If you want to blame somebody, go back and blame somebody that was serving 35 years ago that didn't put funding in place to keep it up. So,
right.
But it's the problem that we have now. And so we've got to figure out how to do that. Is there any other, so road, I know everybody complains about potholes around the area. From the county commission seat, what's kind of, so roads, any other infrastructure aspects for the future?
Well, roads and maintaining bridges are the primary responsibility of county commissioners. As they say, is where the rubber meets the road. That's what county commissioners essentially were put in place to maintain the roads and bridges across America. And it's kind of evolved because, in a district like the one I'm running for, it's more of a city district. And most of the streets and roads are in the city limits. So most of the projects that I did and probably will continue to do would be in the city limits of Etowah or Gaston. When I left the county commission, it was only about 17 miles of county roads or so. And that's a good number. Not a good number for some of the guys, in District 4 that has a lot of roads. And at one point there were even still some dirt roads in that district. And they were trying to work to eliminate any dirt roads. And then with the cost of material going up, I think now some government officials are even looking at going back to some form of dirt road to be more cost effective. So, you never want to go back, unless it's, completely necessary, but it's also expensive to pay roads. One thing I do want to talk about, there's a road in Rainbow City, and the name escapes me right now, is eventually will lead to the mega sports complex. I seeded that project. I gave the first, I think, $150,000 toward that project to the city of Rainbow City. Now, that was outside of District 5, and that's fine with me because you have to be concerned about what goes on in one sector of the county affects another sector.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that was so important to me, one, it was going to be a road to a sports complex or authority that was going to serve the all the youth of the county, which I think is a good thing. But also, more importantly, Michael, it was the first road constructed in Etowah County, in the entire county, in 20 years. That's progress, and so
slow progress.
Yes. So it's not anything that I'm ashamed of. Glad that I could spearhead and kind of be instrumental in getting that started. When you think about a road being constructed, I want you to look at the city of Huntsville or Birmingham, where you see detours and construction all day long, every day, 365 days a year. And trust me, they're constructing more than one road every 20 years, probably more than one road a month. And we have to begin to construct new roads. We have new new homes. People are moving out into different areas of the county. You don't want to continue to lose population, so you need new roads, new construction. You need new everything, to keep people engaged and want to live in a place. You want to not just look progressive, but be progressive. And when a company, and I know firsthand, when a company comes into a city or community to kind of scout it out and see if this is a place they want to call home, for lack of better words, they look at the roads and the school systems and the infrastructure and the bridges. And if it looks like unkempt or like it's not well maintained, well, then they look somewhere else. And that's happened far too many times. Building new roads, making the community more walkable, more walker friendly, more pedestrian friendly. I think appeals to people as far as a quality of life. People want to be healthier. You want to, the younger generation, they don't always want to purchase a car, especially with gas prices so high. So
yeah, you were talking about dirt roads. I'm thinking maybe if we go that road, riding horses, we might need to go back to that and not pay the $4 and $5 a gallon fuel.
Well, believe it or not, they assist in so people, but and having an adequate transit system. The county has what we call rural transportation. And they get you to and from the doctor and run errands and to work in some cases. But having adequate transportation where you can know at 3:00 if you get off work, you can catch, this bus or this train.
Right.
And get home or get to the job or wherever, is important. And it affects us more than It affects us not just physically, but mentally. That's stress. When you don't know how you're going to get to work, and
right.
you're a able-bodied person, but you can't get to work because there's no adequate transit system. You shouldn't be forced to have a car if you don't want to have a car. I mean, but you are here.
Well, I'll definitely say that one hits. That's a convicting discussion for me because that's definitely one where I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, and shame on me. I'm blessed to be able to afford a car. And
Hopefully,
I
gas.
shoot, yeah. Well, we're getting there. But that's definitely something that we as a whole community need to think about that. Because while that transportation system may not affect me because I can get in a car and go where I want to go when I want to go there. Um, that as we get to the discussion of how do we raise the quality of life for everyone in the community, which then benefits all of us, then that's something I probably need to do some more research
Yeah.
and get smarter on all that
And
stuff.
that's the
So,
key to it. How does it benefit everyone, not just a select few? So Michael may have a car, but I may not. Michael may have an electric car that's certainly more efficient than my Hummer or whatever. That's what I want. So I'm just gonna speak it into existence. Into my Hummer. So I may not be able to afford to put gas in my Hummer, but Michael has an electric vehicle, and that's another thing um, that we hadn't spent a lot of time thinking on. I did a little bit toward the end of my tenure on the county commission. Um, if you invest in an electric car, where do you charge it here?
mm-hmm.
Very few charging stations. So where you charge up, then you have to invest in a charging station at home. But when you leave home and you need to charge again, where do you charge up? You have to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of things, and that's what I was telling you. I think people in public office, public servants, should be able to not just look at problems that affect them personally, but everyone. I personally, like you, have transportation, but there's so many young people. I have kids, I have
Mm-hmm.
grandkids that don't have transportation, or where their cars have been um, out of commission for a certain period of time, and they are in jeopardy of losing a job, or I have to get up and drive them because there's no transit system, they can't get to work. Um, you know, so that is something, and leaders should think about how things affect everyone and how it all works together and affects everyone at the end of the day.
All right. Well, so you mentioned education when you're talking about businesses coming in and looking in the area. So that's a good
Mhm.
segue into kind of a discussion of where do you see the education, um, again, that's obviously a topic that we could probably go on for a few hours talking about the importance of education and the but as quickly as you can, what's most important as you think about the education system that we have countywide? Obviously with the city of Gadsden County. What are your thoughts on the education system, including Gadsden State? And a lot of, I think, with narrowing down, obviously we all want to teach our kids to read, and there's a lot of stuff that we can address, and a lot of different uh, techniques and programs and stuff at the lower level. But I think if we kind of keep it more in terms of what's going to impact the ability to attract business, to build the workforce of the future. Because that's kind of really where we're focusing on with Advanced Etowah is the business growth. How do we raise the quality of life? Not to say teaching kids to read at a younger life is not, ultimately that's going to raise their quality of life for sure. But I hope that rambling question makes some sense. And what are your thoughts on our education system around here? And goods, bads. What could be better? What do you think about when you think about our education system?
Well, the education system to me is it's a lot like having multiple townships and cities inside the county and communities. We have three school systems, three school boards: Etowah, Gadsden City, and Etowah County. So again, I feel like collaboration is the key between the cities, and the county, and all three school systems. Not favoring one over the other, but equal collaboration. And I think lack of duplication of services. I know that there are plans in place for something that Gadsden State is doing that high school students will be able to participate in, and I think it's some dual credit while they're still in high school. So I think again, making sure that opportunity or those opportunities are open to to students from all three school systems equally, and hopefully that whatever the project is at Gadsden State, that it will be able to um, take some pressure or stress off of the school systems. I know that there's often limited funding, um, for superintendents to work with, and I think we have to look to not just other examples in the state of Alabama, but even in other countries. I think that we are getting it too late. So we are excited about doing career tech type programs or opening college level education up to high school students, but kids are certainly more technically savvy than they have ever been and smarter than they have ever been. So why not open it up even to middle school students? I don't think that you have to wait to high school. I think that America and Alabama um, certainly is behind in a lot of in utilizing a lot of different techniques and strategies and best practices. So I think being able to go out of your comfort zone and look outside of the state of Alabama and even outside the United States for what works to help improve.
And what, as a county commission, what can you do as a county commissioner that can have influence or work in any of that? Because obviously you don't have direct control over any of the school districts or anything like that. But
so aside from just being supported as a elected official, I think fostering and facilitating the relationships with people in higher levels of government, whether it's the state legislators or congressional people, people at a higher level of government that certainly has more money, more funding, um, more inlets to help the superintendents improve and enhance their respected school systems. I think that's one way that elected officials can help, because oftentimes you have the opportunity to um, have a relationship with someone that the average person does not. I think relationships are invaluable to move a community forward. If you don't deal with your congressional people, then they don't. At the end of the day, they don't think about you. When it comes to funding, and that's just the sad truth. If you never reach out or don't have a communication, I mean, kind of out of sight, out of mind. Why would they think of you? And oftentimes money and funding goes to the loudest person, and maybe sometimes to the nicest person. I don't know, but certainly you have to at least have some sort of relationship to even be able to ask.
mm-hmm.
We need help. We would like to be have funding. Um, so I think that's very important, and that's something that I've strived to have good, solid, beneficial relationships with people outside of the area.
All right. Well, speaking of the loudest person, and I mean that tongue in cheek, because I know that I see him mention this a lot. I have met him briefly, Robert Hunter. So the question then is, do we have a countywide civic and youth development program for retention and supplementing of talent? I know that's kind of a concept near and dear to his heart that he's been pushing a lot with. Are you familiar with any the or thoughts, I guess I should say, on a countywide program to work with youth? How do we?
To my knowledge, there's not one. I'm not currently on the county commission, but last I checked, there was not one. I'm in support, in favor of having one. Again, that requires Robert, for oftentimes, for people to relinquish some degree of authority or power. As we talked about other projects in the past, I'm certainly more than happy to share the seat with the people because it's not your seat. You just represent the people in that seat, and so if my having a seat at the table means that everyone, including our youth, have a seat at the table. And so if that's something that that's needed here in our community. I'm certainly been an advocate probably since I got out of high school for retention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Certainly not in favor of what we call, brain drain, and where our biggest, best, and brightest students leave and don't return until retirement age. So I'm all for any type of retention program, but I think that some of the things that I talked about previously, Robert, was leans in the direction of retention, adequate drainage, better infrastructure, good roads. When you have adequate drainage, people are healthier. When you have good infrastructure, people are able to get around. When they have adequate transportation, they have a higher quality of life at the end of the day, because you can get to maybe a higher paying job, get to health care, and those sort of things easier. Mental and physical health. You need adequate transit systems. When you have walkways and more walkable communities, and well lit communities where people feel safe, there's less crime. And so I think it all goes into retention, because do I want to live, work, and play in a place where I have inadequate drainage, um, poor transit system, poor infrastructure, and high crime? And the answer for most people would be no. So when you begin to fix some of those issues, and you have to begin to fix those issues in order to recruit industry that would then pour some money into helping make our community a better place. Because once you have an educational institution or a corporation in a community, that becomes part of their mission statement to enhance the community that they live in, or that they are housed in. So I think all that goes into retention for me. But I'm certainly willing to facilitate or foster, or even begin some type of youth coalition, pertaining to retention. So that's something that you know, when I'm in the office, my seat is the seat of the people. So
All
I
right.
feel just as passionate about it as you do.
um, all right. So let's talk about safety. You mentioned the safe environment, which takes me to the first responders. And this is a topic that is not something that, is directly related to the rendering plant that we've, been dealing with. But I guess under the idea that the rendering plant issue was a symptom of an underlying problem, and everybody started talking as a community. A lot more people all of a sudden became aware that the starting pay and pay issues, particularly firefighters. I think it's $10.38 in the city of Gadsden. Um, the first responder issue. Obviously, everyone that sits in that seat and is running for office is probably not going to say they're paid enough. Everybody's going to say, "Yeah, let's pay them more." Or I guess I would say, if you're dumb enough to sit here and say, "Don't give our cops more money, don't give our firefighters more money," then you probably will lose some votes. But what are your thoughts on an understanding of the issues that we've got with the first responders, and not just particular to City of Gadsden? I understand it's a, it's there's some issues there kind of across the board. And in all fairness to Etowah County, I think, it's probably an issue faced by many communities around our country. But what are your thoughts on the first responder issue and the discussion? And I will say, yeah, I know the city guys, there is some ongoing discussions right now that they're having to deal with some of that stuff. But what are your thoughts on that?
Um, well, one good thing I think about me being a candidate is that I'm a former elected official, so I have a record. So I've always, even when it's not an election year, even when I haven't had opposition, voted for raises for our first responders at the county. So certainly I don't have any input with the city fire departments, but I did contribute, funds to some of the volunteer fire departments throughout the county. So I'm always in favor of giving our first responders, firemen, deputies, um, whoever it may be, um, the highest pay that we can give them because they put their lives on the line for us each and every day. Um, it is at the county, it was a little bit different. When I left the county commission, we had formed, or the previous sheriff had formed had formed an additional personnel board to specifically deal with the law enforcement side of the street, because one unique thing about, and it may be the same at city government level, but county government is when you give across the board raises for county employees, that includes your first responders. And so oftentimes the sheriff or whoever it may be may feel like their people need additional money because, perhaps crime is up or they're getting more calls or whatever. Maybe, suicides are up in the community. I hope not, but that's a possibility. Mental illness is real. And so it's kind of a catch-22 because when you give a raise across the board, where if you give a 2.5% raise to all the employees, because all county employees frankly work hard and they keep us going and running, then it's a little hard sometimes when the sheriff or someone comes in and wants to maybe give the law enforcement people another 5%, and then the people on the other side of the street say, what about us?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we important? Don't we matter? Don't we make sure that we collect the property taxes and the sales tax and that sort of thing? So, but I'm always in favor of making sure that our pay is fair to our first responders. And so I certainly would love to pay the first responders as well as all the county employees as much as we can afford to pay. Because, again, when corporations come into a community, they look at all of that. What are the wages here? And my personal opinion, not speaking for anyone else, how can you pitch to a company that we want you to pay livable wages and pay this top dollar for our workforce because they're great and they deserve it, and they do, and then you pay poverty level wages? That just doesn't mix well, doesn't go good together. And so took the long way around to say I'm in support of our first responders. And you can check my record. I've never voted against a raise for our first responders.
And that's, that's a good perspective. I like the idea of, if you're not setting the precedent as a municipality or as municipalities, and you're dealing with businesses, then it doesn't leave a lot of room to gripe that a business isn't paying enough. And contrary to popular belief, every business isn't out there to try and pay the least amount of money possible. Good businesses are out there to take care of people because they recognize that retaining good people means you've got to treat them a certain way. All right. So the last thing, and unless we get any more questions, but the last thing is the business environment. So we've talked about all of these different aspects, and the way, I'm kind of looking at it is all of this feeds into, and again, there's a lot of issues that we have across the board in our community, and for us with Advanced Etowah, trying to kind of corral it all into a countywide concept. We can't dig down into, like, I know, there's a good number of folks that, like, the Humane Society is that's a passion for them. And that is absolutely a very important thing. And so I don't want to make anybody feel like they're left out, but what we're trying to focus on, because we've kind of, from what we've seen, obviously with the rendering plant, the concept of jobs was a major argument as to why we needed this thing. And, we hear time and time again about how we need jobs. What we're really pushing as Advanced Etowah is we need to raise the quality of life in our community. And if we raise the quality of life, meaning we raise, household incomes, then it will help take care of a lot of these other things. There'll be more money available through taxes for things like the Humane Society or other issues that we have. That's kind of the perspective we're having. So we don't necessarily mean to discount anyone else's, things that, and I'm like, I'm in awe of people that are passionate about whatever they're passionate about, because that's awesome. I mean, that's what makes everything work together. So I say all of that to say let's dig to what we're really getting at is all of this going together to the business environment of Etowah County. Um, all the municipalities working together. County. You talked about the mega site, but what are your thoughts on the current business environment that we have in Etowah County? As we're talking about, retention and building opportunities for people to grow, to stay here, and then also recruiting other entities into the community. What are your thoughts on the current business environment?
Um, that was a long question. So, in terms of, is it business friendly? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, do you which I mean, I guess as Advanced Etowah, I'm going to come right out and say, we've heard it multiple times that we don't have, and I'll say it softly, we don't have the best, most friendly business environment in Etowah County. And why do you think that is? What can we do to make things better to attract more business development, business growth internally? And I mean, I've said multiple times, I think with the number of people that are kind of apprehensive or just flat out don't grow a business, or the number of people that I've heard say I've kind of grown a business in spite of fighting the powers that be. I think to me, it's kind of silly to really get into recruiting and having a big discussion about recruiting business into the community when the people that already live here aren't all that excited about starting or running or maintaining a business in their own community. Now, if I'm reading that wrong, then you tell me. But that's kind of, does that help at all with?
Mm-hmm. So I think as a not just as a candidate for county commission, but as a small business owner myself, I think what you're trying to say is that we're not the most business friendly community that we could be, and so how do we begin to fix that? Well, I'm all for one public private partnerships, because people inside city halls and courthouses, oftentimes they're not also small business owners. Sometimes they are. But when you have people that have been there, 20 plus years, more than likely that's probably what they've done. They've devoted their life to public service in the government sector, and that is a whole different animal and a whole different beast. And so you don't know what you don't know. I agree with you. I'm never an advocate for recruiting huge corporations and giving huge tax breaks while neglecting the core of our community, which are the small business owners. They're the ones that employ people when no one else will come here. They're the ones that give to our softball teams, that sponsor our programs, that give to our schools, and give to the Humane Society, which I sit on the board of. Those are the people that keep your community going. When
I actually, for the record, I actually didn't know that. I did not mean to pick that one.
That's okay. That's okay. It gave me a segue to talk about the Humane Society. So we need donations. But anyway, so I think that oftentimes communities, cities, and counties neglect the local business people. And like I said, they're there when no one else is, and when everyone else jumps ship and leaves town, like we've seen in the recent past. Those local business people are the ones that are still there. They're the ones that show up at your city council meetings and your county commission meetings. They're the ones that vote for you at the end of the day and put you in office. They're the ones that go out on United Way Serve Days and help beautify your community centers and your schools. And your senior citizen homes and your nursing homes. And so I'm all for some type of public private partnership. I think we need a business advisory council. That's just not with the county, but also with the municipalities. I think we need to form one of those. And if elected again to the county commission, I'll be glad to form one of those. Um, I also think we need to incentivize our local businesses a little bit more than we do, because really we don't incentivize at all. So anything I think would be more than what they're getting. We can make it a lot easier for people to start businesses. We talked about over the years a one-stop type shop where you don't have to go to 3 or 4 different places to get this and that and this permit and this license. And just showing that we're actually glad that you're opening businesses here in our county, and also sending the message that Etowah County is open for business. That's important. So I'd love to facilitate some type of council that works with the local governments, especially the county commission. The county commission is the governing body of a county. This they don't really teach civics anymore, but that's just how it is. And so certainly the county should be leading the way. I believe in that, and I'll be glad to facilitate something like that. In the business, in and outside the business community, and also giving our youth, I think, a larger seat at the table. Perhaps as we start engaging them, in the middle school years, then there are future leaders. We can get them involved and active, and to Robert's question earlier, I think that can play a part in retention of our youth. Also, one thing, and I hadn't talked about a whole lot about it, but one thing that, and I'll do it whether I'm elected again or not, I think that we need a citizens academy that actually teaches the average person, the average citizen, the inner workings of government of their cities and counties, and what this person does, so that when you vote, that if you vote for me, that I don't have any control on the county commission of developing the Coosa River area. But you need to know who can make that decision. And I think having other people in office come out and talk about their roles in government, and what they do, and even how much they make, just telling you the inner workings of government. I think that's important. I think when people understand better, it's easier for them to become involved and viable citizens in our county. So I will be starting a citizens advisory type council to academy to teach people more about that, whether I'm elected or not.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so last, because we haven't touched on them, and there are two things that have been near and dear to the conversation we've had, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
So let's talk about the IDA and the airport authority. And obviously, as a county commissioner right now, you're not in a position necessarily that you're influencing the IDA or the airport authority. And I guess the general question would be, what's your perspective on those in terms of industrial recruitment and airport development? What are your thoughts on those two entities, and what they mean to the future of our community?
So I briefly sat on the IDA some years ago when I was on the county commission. So I do know a little bit about it. In the past, and it's probably still true now, the county didn't really have any input into that, because the city, for the most part, pays, pays the bills. I'll say it that way. And so when you don't pay, just kind of like at the house, when you don't pay a bill, you don't get a say on the light stays on and that sort of thing. One thing that I was instrumental in at the county was helping to form an economic development authority for the county, because I think it's important that all the municipalities, no matter how many we have, if we have 20, and maybe we feel like that's too many, but it is what it is. If we have 11 cities, communities and townships, then they all need to see the table. They all need to have a vote on industrial development because it affects every aspect of our community, of our county, and it affects every citizen of this county. So, I'd like to see I guess, a combined industrial development authority or economic development authority, whatever the name may be, where the county has as much input as the local municipalities have in it. I think that's important to move us forward. I think that's been another thing that people, when they came to Gaston or Etowah County to talk about locating here, that they look at, okay, well, I only see the county here, or I only see the city here. Where are the other people? And they can tell. Trust me, they can tell when you don't work well together, or play well together, or live well together in the community, and that's not attracted to any corporation. And they need to see diversity. And when I say diversity, I'm not just talking about black and white. They need to see a collective combination of young and middle age and senior citizen, everyone having a piece of the pie and a place at the table. That's important in economic development. So people don't just come to a community and look to see, okay, well, you took me out to eat and you say you want me to come and I'm going to give you this tax abatement. It's about so much more than that. The crime rate, the infrastructure, the mental health, so
Right.
so I guess that would be my question. Would be my vision would have to have a combined IDA or economic development authority that works hand in hand to recruit and not just recruit industry, but retain the current industry that we have as well.
All right. And thoughts on the current state of the airport, and where it could go, potential.
Well, you're right. That's kind of out the gamut of running for county commission. Previously when I ran for mayor, I talked about that. I thought that the airport certainly is a great asset and can be an even greater asset. I mean, there's so much potential at the airport. We could bring in so many more businesses and maybe have aviation programs and an aviation school. There's just so many opportunities with that airport. And I think, again, public-private collaborations. We have to have some public-private partnerships, and I think if we do that and begin to the county, in some communities, every county and county commission is actually structured differently in all 67 counties. Some of them have hospitals, cemeteries, airports that they're over, and some of them don't. We don't have an airport here, but there's certainly nothing wrong with the county partnering up with the airport authority and saying we want to help expand this airport, make it all it can be, make it a great airport and an airport that people want to come to. That helps foster economic development. So I'm on for that.
All right. Well, so guys, that is going to wrap it up for the discussion. Carolyn, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Well, this is going to sound a little crazy, but you can find me on Facebook. It's Carolyn Hope Parker, or the page is I think Carolyn Parker from Mayor Gaston, because they won't change the name of the page yet. But when you go to the page, you will see Carolyn Parker for County Commission District 5.
Gotcha.
Photo on there. So that's where you can find me at now. You can reach me on my cell, 256-305-8200. I'm on Instagram and Twitter a little bit under my name.
All right.
So, certainly I hope that, by now people know how to reach out to me. But if you don't, I just told you some ways to reach out to me. And look forward to serving the people again. And hopefully people will come out and vote for me May 24th.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. And if you'll go to advancedetowah.com, the candidate profiles, the election app that we've built out, you've got links and everything, and I'll link her up in the description when we get done. So thank you again. Thank you guys for listening. And like she said, May 24th is that's the critical one for the county commissioners and your state level stuff. So we're going to talk about those first. And I hope everybody has a good, adult, productive conversation in the current political environment. I know that is hard to do in our world today in America, but I appreciate you coming on. Look
Thank
forward to future conversations with other candidates. Hopefully it wasn't too scary.
Thank you for letting me be the guinea pig. I didn't know until I got here, but thank you.
Well, all right, guys. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this, and we will talk to you guys on the next